Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Jandy Reynoso and I am one of the Education USA advisors here in Mexico City. Today we have Western Washington University. We have Casey Eager from International Admissions Counselor, and also Yosung UN Outreach, Engagement and Retention Management, both from Western Washington University. I will appreciate if everyone can mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. And then at the end, we will do some Q&A. So if you have any questions, make sure to type them on the box where it says chat. Okay, so now let's get started. I'm just gonna start by introducing what Education USA is. So we are a global network of advising centers from the U.S. State Department's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Here in Mexico, we have around 26 advising centers. If you are from other countries, you can reach out to us and we can put you in contact with your closest advising center. Our information is, we do provide information that is unbiased, accurate, and comprehensive about the accredited U.S. higher education institutions. And since we are a program from the U.S. State Department, all of our information and all of our events are free. Can you change slides, please? Thank you. Some of our main activities include in-center activities. We do have information sessions, workshops, and we do have a wide variety of resources. But we also have virtual activities like this one. We do webinars, we also do college fairs. And some of our events are also outside our centers. These include presentations, visiting some other institutions, and also participating in mobility fairs. So now we're gonna hear from our speakers. So remember, if you have any questions, please make sure to type them on the chat box. Thank you.
Can I get started?
Yes, now? Please.
Okay.
Do. Thank
Great.
you.
Hello, everybody. This is Jiasong Yun, and I'm the Outreach, Engagement, and Retention Manager for Language Culture Programs here at Western Washington University. And thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are going to talk about intensive English programs, pathway programs, and the transition to a four-year U.S. university. So, do you want to study in the United States but feel that your English is not so good? Or if you're a parent watching this, do you have a son or a daughter that wants to study in the United States, but you are worried about them being safe and adapting? So this is where intensive English programs and pathway programs come in. They're easier, softer landing of ways for a student coming from another country to the United States to study. And this is our agenda today. So first off, I will talk about intensive English programs in the United States and what they are. And secondly, I'll talk about pathway programs and what they are. Thirdly, we'll talk about the advantages of immersion programs. And then we'll talk about admission processes. And then we'll talk about transitioning to a U.S. college or university. And finally, we'll give some examples from Western Washington University on our IEP, Intensive English Program, Pathway Program, and direct admit to our undergraduate programs. And then we will have lots of time for any questions and answers. So you may wonder, what is an intensive English program, or short IEP for short? So typically this is a full-time study program, and it's usually 18 to 20 hours a week in a classroom environment. And it offers an immersion environment because you're using English all the time, not just in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. And it helps develop all four of your language skills, like speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And like I said, the immersion environment includes lots of cultural exchange opportunities. There are activities and events with domestic students and also other international students. There are different types of IEPs in the United States. The first kind is programs for business. So these are for specific business sectors. And the second kind is university prep. And so this kind of IEP develops your academic English skills for English exams like IELTS and TOEFL. And the third kind are programs with conditional admission to a university upon completion of the highest level in the IEP. And so what conditional admission means is that you complete the English program and graduate from the IEP, and then you don't need to take TOEFL or IELTS in order to gain admission into the university. What is a pathway program? So pathway program is another way to get admission into a four-year university. It helps students develop English language skills and the academic knowledge needed to enter either a bachelor's or a master's degree in the United States. And sometimes you hear these terms called foundation year, international year, or gateway program. So these are all just different ways of referring to a pathway program. So what is a pathway program? So it takes, students take English as a second language classes while they are also taking courses for credit towards their degree. And it also offers conditional admission to the university, similar to the IEP. So if you finish the courses, then you get admitted to that university. It provides added support to help with transition to higher education. And like IEPs, it also offers many cultural exchange opportunities with domestic students and other international students. So here's a quick diagram to show the differences between IEPs and pathway programs. So for IEPs, they are all non-credit English classes with small class sizes. So usually under 15 per class. All the classes are designed for students learning English. And there are different programs for special purposes. So like I mentioned before, there are special programs for business, for TOEFL prep and English language testing prep. And then for pathway programs, they're taking English classes plus regular 4-credit classes at the university. So some of these classes, the 4-credit classes, are designed for domestic students. And these programs also offer extra services and support to prepare for university life. So you may wonder, what are the advantages of coming to an immersion program like an IEP or a pathway program? Well, some of the biggest advantages are that it improves your English every day because you are constantly having to use English, speaking and listening to native speakers, other students on campus. You get to learn about American culture and values through popular holidays such as Halloween and Thanksgiving. And you get to make friends with English-speaking American students and teachers to continue learning. So some general admission requirements for these types of programs are you have to be a high school graduate, and usually the minimum age is 18 for an IEP. And for a pathway program, some pathway programs may require a language test score, such as IELTS and TOEFL. And it also requires minimum high school GPA for university admission. The application process for an intensive English program is typically listed here. So you have to complete some kind of application form, and there's usually some sort of application fee. You then need to submit a copy of your passport and a letter from your bank stating that you have enough funds to cover your expenses while studying. And then you wait for the university to send out their I-20 and acceptance letter. And with those documents, then you can apply for the visa interview. So you have to submit a SEVIS fee payment, which is for the visa. And then you schedule your visa interview at a US consulate or embassy nearby. Application for pathway program, very similar to an IEP. You also have to complete application, you pay your application fee, submit passport copy, you submit your financial guarantee. And I think the biggest difference is this one here, that most pathway programs require that you submit high school transcripts, and they may even require some kind of language test scores. And the reason for this is because the university needs to look at how well a student is doing in high school in order to decide if they can continue into university as a direct or after the language learning part so that they can get conditional admission into university. And then the rest is the same process. You wait for the university to send I-20 and acceptance letter, you submit your SEVIS fee payment, and then you schedule your visa interview. So now I'm gonna turn this over to Casey, and he will talk about the transitioning to an American university or college.
Hi there, I'm Casey Egger. I'm Western Washington University's International Admissions Counselor, and I also manage our recruitment outreach for undergraduate admissions at Western. So Jasong's sort of explained the difference between some IEP as well as pathway programs. Well, if you're one of those students that chooses to study in an intensive English program or a pathway program, and your intent is to study or transition to a university, you know, that can be kind of intimidating, especially when you're starting as an English as a second language learner. Even our domestic students have a hard time navigating the university system. So the good news is that universities have advisors on staff to help with the process. That's what my job is, and that's what I'm here to help with. So I'm just going to talk about a few things that you can be aware of and understand that might help you better prepare for that transition. So the first one is just understanding the requirements. And the basics are, what are the deadlines? When do I need to submit an application to make sure that I can be considered for admission or the term that I want to start at the university or college? The second is, what are the required GPA or grades that I need to get into the university? So when you're looking at an IEP or pathway program at a college or university, if I'm thinking about transitioning or gaining conditional admission, do I have the grades to be able to study at that university? And the other is entrance exams. So does the university also require an SAT or an ACT? Or is it just proof of English proficiency? And the next bullet there, for example, that might be the TOEFL or the IELTS, or maybe even a separate English exam that's administered by the school. There are things like oral interviews, ESL or IEP options, where students are able to, from an IEP program or an ESL program, transition to a community college and take English language classes there for credit, and then transfer to a university. But You also need to understand what are the official documents that I need in order to get to the university. So official transcripts, official test scores. How do I request those TOEFL scores or those IELTS exams? How do I send in my high school transcripts to make sure that the university has the documents that they need? Other things that I think most students should know and understand before transitioning to university is that there are resources available to help you with that transition. And the most common resources that are really useful for you are, one, to meet with an advisor. I can't express how important that is. I have so many students that may apply to a program that I never hear from or that never reach out to me, and they're sort of fumbling their way through the process and sometimes making it harder on themselves. And if they'd only reach out to us and utilize the different people on our campus that are there to help them, we can make sure that the process goes smoother and answer questions and make sure that the documents that they're sending are going to the right place. The other is to make sure that you attend an orientation. Orientations are typically larger events where you're with other students at the university and you're talking about what classes you're going to register for, setting up an academic plan, and meeting other resources on campus to be able to help you out as you navigate the college system. You want to understand the quarterly class schedule, or if you're going to a semester system, you want to just understand how does that work? When do I register for classes? When do classes start? When are final exams? And when do I need to register for my next term? The next are general education requirements. Okay, so understanding what are the requirements that I need to graduate from the university, but also the requirements I need in order to gain admission into the program I want to study. At many of the US institutions, those are separate processes, gaining admission to university and then also gaining admission into your program. And a lot of these classes at the undergraduate level are writing intensive. And that's why we feel strongly that IEP programs and pathway programs for international students where English is a second language is really important in helping develop those skills to be successful in the classroom. The next would be to continue to identify your campus resources. So, are there tutoring labs on campus? Are there international student services and support offices? What about academic advising? How about health and psychological counseling, mental health and well-being counseling, career advising? Just continuing to be involved on campus and finding resources to help you through that process. And being involved can be as simple as joining clubs and organizations, but also, sports and activities and going to events. So being involved on campus not only helps develop your English, but helps you navigate the college system. And then the last is just to promote the idea of an intensive English program or a pathway program, and understanding that the stronger your English is, the better you have of succeeding or being academically successful in your program. The things that I see from students coming from IEP or conditional admissions is that they just have a stronger sense of their abilities and to face the challenges of everyday academic demands. They're more confident than sometimes students who come directly to the university and this is the first time they've ever been on a US university campus, the first time they've ever used English predominantly, and it's a little bit overwhelming. IEP and pathway programs can kind of help soften that transition. The other is understanding the norms of an academic community. So again, you're getting to know things at a slower pace. But IEP and pathway in particular help you develop those critical thinking skills such as the synthesis, the analysis, the evaluation, as you're learning the reading, the writing, the speaking. And that's going to help you in classes like English 101 or psychology or any class where you're going to be asked to engage, but also to read and write. So the last would be, it definitely helps you communicate effectively orally, which would be important in a US style of education where you're asked to collaborate in the classroom. You're asked to work with your fellow classmates, and sometimes your professor will engage you and ask questions. So it's more of a collaborative style of education. And all of these different processes, from your basic academic writing skills through the oral as well as the listening. It's going to help you develop effective learning strategies and study skills to be successful and transition from those programs to a university.
Okay, so now we can give some examples from Western Washington University. So we have an IEP here at Western, and it is a 10-week program in fall, winter, and spring quarters. And it's a 9-week program in the summer and 20 hours per week in class. And we have 6 levels, starting from the beginning level all the way through level 6, which is university prep.
What is level 0, Jason?
Level 0 is basic, as in for somebody that does not have English.
Right, so any student could start in IEP and work their way up to university level English.
Yep, exactly. So, and I've mentioned this before, our class sizes are very small, so 15 students or less, and it offers conditional admission to Western upon completion of level 6. So that means you don't need to take TOEFL, you don't need to take IELTS. And I mentioned that before too, that this is a great immersion experience because every Saturday there is some activity that we plan. And there are also conversation partners where you can pair up with a domestic student and you get to spend time with that person, get to know them, learn more about American culture, and so on. And lots of excursions too. Like we take some students, we're close to Seattle. A lot of you might probably know of Seattle. It's a pretty famous place. And Vancouver, BC, it's also very close by. So we have excursions to these places.
And the importance sometimes of conditional admission, and the nice thing about that is that when you are applying for your visa, a lot of consulates and embassies, they want to know, what are you going to do after your English program? And so we find students who make a plan and gain conditional admission. They actually get a letter from our office saying, you are conditionally admitted to Western. A lot of times they have a better success rate of gaining visa approval, knowing that these students are not just going to be here very quick, but they have a full and intent to study English and graduate from the university.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. And especially currently, visa denials are a little higher than usual. And I think the students that can show that they are staying and going on for a 4-year degree study has a much higher chance of getting their visas. And at Western, we also have the pathway programs. And there are 2 programs, one for undergraduate, which is called Global Pathway Program. And this one is from levels 4 to 6. And there's also an option if your English level is lower than level 4 that you come in as a pre-pathway student for 1 quarter, and then you proceed on to levels 4 to 6. Students are taking 5 to 20 credits of Western regular university courses while taking the English classes. And the advantage of this is that those credits then count towards your degree at Western, and you are actually a student at Western.
So this is for students who are a little more advanced with their English. They're able to take classes at the undergraduate level, and they're also taking English support classes. So it's a kind of a mix between university admissions and IEP.
Right. And the other pathway program we have here at Western is the PMP, Pre-Master's Pathway. And this is for students interested in getting a Master's in Business Administration degree, an MBA. And students would come in, again, levels 4 to 6, or as a pre-pathway at level 3. And they take 5 to 12 credits of Western classes while taking their English classes. And again, these credits count towards their degree.
So those students, they've already completed a bachelor's degree in their home country. And really what they need is, they don't need to work on another degree at the undergraduate level. They just need English language support in order to go into a MBA program. So we call that pre-master's pathway.
Yep, that's correct. And these are the steps that we have for applying to our intensive English program. So there is an online application form. We need a copy of your passport, a copy of your financial guarantees, it's a bank statement, and application fee normally is $75. And if you mention that you learned about us through this webinar, then there is no application fee. And we take everything over email, so there's no need to mail any paper copies to us. You just submit everything via email to us. No TOEFL or IELTS required. And as we mentioned before, that you can also apply for conditional admission to Western. And we're here to help, and these are the links to the application pages on our website.
And this presentation will be offered through your EducationUSA office electronically, and I'm sure they'll be happy to share it with you. So
yes.
I know you're all writing frantically
yes.
right now, but we'll be able to share this with you and send it to you if you want this information at your hand and be able to click on these links.
Yes, and we'll be following up with you as well after this webinar with an email and more information.
So applying to Western, if you're one of those students who says, right now, you know what, I feel like I don't really need English support. I've been taking English classes since pre-K all the way 1 through 12, whatever your grades are. Maybe your parents speak English at home and you're ready to go. So what we look for in our applications to just directly come to Western is complete our online application, write a short essay. It's less than 500 words. We just want to know who you are, what you want to study, and why Western would be a good fit. We do need official transcripts, so those would come from your school directly to Western. And oftentimes those are mailed, but there are opportunities to email those. If you are looking to be directly admitted, so no IEP and pathway program, we do need some form of proof of English. So we do want a TOEFL, IELTS, or SAT. And you can see our recommended scores there. TOEFL 79, IELTS 6.5, and an SAT is 550 on the verbal section. Okay.
So before we open up for questions, we have a short video from one of our previous students that we want to share. Oops.
So this is one of our IEP examples, a student who started with very minimal English language skills.
No English.
Applied for conditional admissions and finds himself a very successful business person right now working with Amazon.
Yep.
Here in Washington, a Fortune 500 company.
Yes. So here we go. Oh. That's unmuted, right? Why is there no sound? I think there's something over here that you need to change, maybe. Sorry, just 1 minute. Maybe it's up here. Select a microphone, speaker. Oh, maybe it's here. Unmute your speaker or increase your volume.
Hi, my name's Donna Robinson, and I'm the instructor in the
Uh-oh.
Immersion program.
Sorry.
And I've
Yeah.
been asked to give you some
One
ideas
second.
to
Sorry.
learning English at Western Washington University. And the first advice I can give you is to
Where's
learn
the
about
other
the
one?
city you're going to, learn about the country you're going to, but especially the city. If you come to Bellingham expecting a lot of nightlife, that might not necessarily happen. Look into the culture of the city. Bellingham is a very outdoorsy
That's not
kind of
it.
city. People like to go hiking, they like to go bowling, they like to go sailing, they like to go skiing.
Hold on.
So
Sorry.
kind of things that you enjoy doing. Another thing you can do to help yourself is to
Stop
look
video.
for cultural information online using social media and maybe even I think
It's like
the
there's
best
some
advice
other
for you to
video
read and
that
find
is
out about
playing
culture shock.
in the background.
Culture shock.
If we're having technical difficulties, we can always share with them the video when
Yeah,
we share
I
the
think maybe we'll
presentation.
just send out the link
Yes, yeah, we can do that.
later here.
Yep.
But I need to I need to turn this thing off.
I'm actually there. And
How do
that
you
will go
get-
on for a while. And then after a while, you kind of start questioning the choice you made
I
to come
can't
over
get
here
up
because
there.
some of the cultural things that are going on are really difficult because they're different. And so a rejection
Close
phase
this.
starts to start.
I can't get to it.
With
See.
that comes maybe a feeling of loneliness. And so it's very important to talk to other people when this happens. There are people on staff who help you from the university level and in our program level with their info. And one thing to note.
Okay. There. Now, did I just kill the Zoom? Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I don't know what was happening. Anyway, let's go back to our question and answer. And if people have questions for us.
Yandi, can you see our screen now?
Yandi?
Yes, I can see your screen now.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Are there any questions?
Yes, we do have some questions. Hector is asking how much is the IEP cost approx?
So his question was, how much does IEP cost?
Oh, so for 1 quarter, including your tuition and student fees and housing and food and everything, it's around roughly $7,500 US.
Also, Camelia is asking, at first, we would like to thank you for the time you devoted for us. Moreover, I would like to know about the application deadline, please.
Application deadline
Yes.
for IEP or for direct admit?
We can give them both.
Yeah, okay. So for IEP, so we can start with, let's say, fall quarter. The deadline would be July 15th. And winter quarter, it would be October 15th. And then spring quarter would be January 15th. And summer quarter would be in April 15th.
And for students who are looking to apply to the university, we're for fall 2020, we're hoping to have all of your information and application by March 1st. We will accept later applications on a case-by-case basis. But whenever we're accepting applications after a deadline, we just really want to make sure that it's not impacting the student negatively, that they're not missing out on an opportunity to register for courses, that they're not missing orientations, that they have plenty of time to interview for a visa if they need to do that. So March 1 is our deadline.
Okay, Antonio is also asking about if there are any scholarships for these programs.
So currently, unfortunately, we do not have scholarships for the intensive English program or the pathway program, but we do have some scholarship, and I'll let Casey talk about those.
There are some small scholarships for students who apply for conditional admission, and even if they do start in the pathway program, typically the student needs to have a 3.0 GPA, which depending on your educational system, if you go with percentages, that's about an 86%. But a 3.0 GPA and above, we'll offer scholarships up to $5,000 a year. And that's just here at Western. There are other schools in the U.S. that offer different scholarships, but at Western, we will offer a merit-based scholarship called the International Achievement Award, and it's just based on GPA.
Okay, I don't think we have more questions. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think that was all of the questions we had.
Great.
That's all the questions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, great. So I'm showing, can you guys still see the screen?
We can see you.
Oh, you can see, can you not see the screen then?
No, you need to share it again.
Okay, now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have any questions, please send us an email at iep@wwu.edu, or you can go to this link and look up all the details on the intensive English program. And like I said before, we will be following up with you, and this PowerPoint is also available for people to download and look at later.
And we will share that video
Yes.
of Skylar
Right.
with your Education USA advising office.
Yes.
And we'll send that out to each of you.
Yes, we will. If you are not in Mexico or in the country or in Mexico City, make sure to reach out to us so we can also put you in contact with your nearest advising center.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your support, Yandi. Thanks for all of the attendees for joining us, and we hope you learned something, and we hope you learn or want to learn more about Western Washington University and continue to work through your EducationUSA office.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining today. We'll make sure to share the presentation and the recording of this webinar and also the link that they mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Bye, Yandi.
Thanks, Yandi.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.